Welcome to Norfolk Perspective City Slice. I'm Bob Batcher. Well, when you think of MacArthur, what do you think of? Well, let's be candid. You think about the mall. You think about a general that died 51 years ago. Well, I think of a lot of things. There's publications out now about World War II that he has mentioned throughout, and also about the European front with Patton and other generals. Well, I got the consummate professional, and he knows everything there is to know about MacArthur. Christopher Kolakowski, how you doing?
Doing fine, Bob. How are you?
Pretty good. Director of MacArthur Memorial, and you've been there for a year and a half now.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And I remember one thing that impressed me about you. You came on the sofa, I think maybe a week and a half after you came on board, and you knew everything. So I can imagine what it's like a year and a half later.
You never stop learning, and I was just going through some stuff yesterday and finding things in our collection. It's amazing what you find. It's amazing the treasures that we have. One of the things we found, and one of the things that we're going to be putting on display in our next temporary exhibit, is the inventory of General MacArthur's apartment when he and his wife
cool.
and his kid abandoned it in Manila in December 1941. And then they went to Corregidor as part of the whole retreat to Bataan and Corregidor. The Japanese went in and inventoried everything in the MacArthur penthouse, and it's a 35-page document. And it's a really interesting glimpse into the life of three people, a snapshot of the lives of three people in December 1941.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Did he have a futon?
No. Well, actually, I take that back. He did. The Manila Hotel had a futon. They separated it because they lived at the penthouse of the Manila Hotel in downtown Manila, and they separated by who owned what.
But now, let's put it in perspective. It's not quite the same penthouse that he probably would live in today.
Probably not.
So, okay.
But it is impressive. One of the really interesting, but at the same time heartbreaking things is, remember, their son is 3 when
Right.
the war breaks out, when Pearl Harbor's bombed in December 1941. And Christmas Eve 1941 is when they abandon the Manila Hotel to go to Corregidor because the Japanese have invaded the Philippines. And
So no Santa Claus.
It's not going well. Well, here's what they did.
Oh.
They had a Christmas on December 23rd, and so little Arthur the son opened the presents. And then Mrs. MacArthur said, okay, you can take one thing. And he took a little stuffed bear. And the rest went under the bed. And so we know what Arthur got for Christmas because the Japanese found them and said, found under the bed, and they list all the toys and things that little Arthur was
Oh, my
given.
gosh, you're kidding.
It is that when I say it's an amazing snapshot, that's the kind of snapshot it is.
Chris, and I kind of said, it was alluding to this in my introduction. So often you can think, okay, he died 51 years ago. It's history. It's back then. But the relevance of our community. I mean, I can imagine how many military parents are out there saying, yeah, I can relate to that. We had to move quickly. The Packers came.
Sure.
And the relevance to today's life is still alive and well, isn't it?
Well, through the MacArthur Memorial, through the story, you can really pick up two things. The first one is it's a deeply human story.
Mm-hmm.
People look at MacArthur and they look at, it's this guy in black and white photographs. It's this guy in the iron statue out in front of the memorial itself.
He took on the President of the United States.
Right. He's this great, larger-than-life figure. Well, yeah, he played on an international stage, no doubt. But when it comes down to it, he's a husband, he's a father, he's a son himself, and it's in many ways a deeply human story. And then the other part is you think about the impact of his life and his impact particularly on the Far East and how he's a national hero still in places like South Korea, Japan, and the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about what he did and the impact and how it still echoes and reverberates to today.
Well, the way that he rebuilt Japan, basically through grace, diplomacy,
Yes.
and truly being a statesman. Are we doing that in today's world where we're coming out of Afghanistan and Iraq? I mean, some of those models are still being followed today, right?
Very much, very much. And one of the things when it was time to start planning some of those occupations, people have looked at how to plan, how to rebuild nations after conflicts. MacArthur in Japan always comes up very early in the discussion because it's an example of how it's done. A British historian not that long ago called MacArthur's rebuilding of Japan as the most successful example of national reconstruction in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a pretty large statement. I'm not sure I'd go that far, but it's certainly, modern Japan is a monument to Douglas MacArthur. It really is.
Did he know that in 1964, do you think?
Yes, he did. And he did because he went back. He toured the Far East. He toured the Philippines in particular in 1961. And it was kind of his valedictory trip. And he knew the love, quite frankly, that the Filipinos showed to him when he went back in 1961. And he'd be amazed the collection of things that they gave him in tribute to General MacArthur, the savior of the Philippines. You know, MacArthur, when he left Bataan and Corregidor, when he left Corregidor in 1942, said, "I shall return." And the Filipinos took that. That's not the United States saying that. Some of them may not have even realized who Roosevelt was. You know, the United States was kind of a shadowy,
Right.
You know, halfway around the world. But when Douglas MacArthur, the personification of the United States, says, "I shall return," that meant he was going to be a man of his word. And the fact that he kept his word and the United States kept their word, kept that promise, you know, influences Asian geopolitics to this day.
Now, you can't talk about MacArthur for more than 5 minutes without the president's name coming up.
Right.
Truman, not Roosevelt. Did they ever bury the hatchet?
They did to an extent. For the 50th anniversary last year, we were going through the various telegrams, because the family kept all the telegrams that arrived from everybody, from little children all the way up to heads of state, things like that. And there was a telegram in there from Harry Truman about a week before MacArthur died in April 1964. And
He was sick.
He was sick. He was on his deathbed in Walter Reed. And we wish you well, get well soon, you know, I feel for you. It was just a real short but a very nice telegram. Harry S. Truman, Independence, Missouri. And that's one of those that,
No commander-in-chief?
no, see, he was a retired president at the time. But he signed, very modest individual, Harry Truman, Independence, Missouri. And you know, that to me, as much as anything, says something about kind of where their relationship was right at the end.
Okay, we got to get something right out there, because we're making an assumption that everybody knows where you're at. Now, I made reference to that mall across the street.
Right.
You can park in that mall
Yes, you can.
and then go the other direction, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're at the corner of Bank Street and East City Hall Avenue, right in the heart of downtown Norfolk. The thing I always tell people is look for the dome, because we're the big dome building right in the center of town, and we're right south of MacArthur Center.
Now, I'm amazed the number of people I've run into since the 50th that still remember where they were April 11th, 1964.
Oh, for the MacArthur funeral and interment. Sure.
Yeah. What about now? What's the interest that you're getting now from local, and from who comes to visit the memorial?
Actually, a wide swath of people, which is great. MacArthur touches a lot of stories. His stories touch a lot of people in a lot of different ways. We get military groups. 20% of the visitors we get come from international, from around the world, various countries, particularly Asia, but elsewhere. Get a lot of locals, a lot of school groups. We have tour groups coming to study the MacArthur story, so that what they can learn to take into the field, from Joint Forces Staff College and various military groups, the Coast Guard, things like that. You know, so it's a real wide range of folks, which is great. You know, it helps keep MacArthur fresh. It helps keep him relevant, and helps, you know, keep his story living far beyond, you know, the 51 years since his death.
Now, you've got I'm going to say this, you got a very interesting, probably the most interesting guys that I've talked to, your archivist, Jim.
Jim is great.
He's the only one I know that can use the word groovy, cool, and MacArthur all in the same sentence.
He's done that many times around me.
But it seems like, though, you're constantly kind of unveiling something new. I mean, is it because you're getting new things in and rediscovering things?
It's a combination of things. We've got 15,000 items ranging in size from little pins all the way up to General MacArthur's Chrysler.
Did they throw anything away?
No. Short
Which is an unusual military family.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then the other thing is 2.5 million documents in the archives.
Wow.
And so there are things you go through, and there are things that we find and we mine every now and then. You know, like this inventory. We knew we had it, but it's one thing to know you have it, and then to pull it out and start flipping through it and see the information that's really there.
Now, we talk about the general, but he spent close to 20 years in private enterprise in his retired years, right?
13, actually.
13 years,
From
okay.
1951.
So he actually did retire at some point in time.
Yes, he did.
So in that 13 years, he had also an impact.
Remington Rand Corporation. He was the chairman of the board for that. But one of the big things he did, actually, and probably the best way to describe it, is elder statesman. He met with John F. Kennedy in 1962 and told him to stay out of a place called Vietnam. He said the same thing to LBJ in 1964 when LBJ came to visit him in Walter Reed.
Let me see, did they listen to him? No.
I think history is the judge of that. But one of the things that he did in 1963 was there was a dispute, and I forget the exact details, but there was a dispute among the NCAA about how to structure the football, the national kind of the conferences, and how they should all interact.
So I talk about relevance.
Exactly, right? Well, the man who President Kennedy says, why don't you broker this? You're a big football fan. You've endowed a trophy that goes to the national champion every year, the MacArthur Cup, which is still awarded.
Oh, okay.
Ohio State got it this year. You broker it. You figure it out. Come to a workable solution. And MacArthur was able to broker a deal. So that as much as anything was his impact, was beyond just being in the boardroom of Remington Rand.
And that's what spells a senior officer, is being able to look at those kinds of negotiations and that political sense.
Yes.
Bottom right. Okay, one last question. I'm going to circle back around. I'm dying to find out what Arthur got for Christmas.
I knew you were going to ask that.
Come on.
I
gotta get more than a teddy bear. What was shoved under the bed?
He got a couple of wooden toys. He got some clothes, a couple other kind of odds and ends. I don't think before the war started they had finished the Christmas shopping, so there was only 2 or 3 items. But it was some clothing and a couple of little toys.
No alarm
He
clock
got a toy
or
tank, nothing like that.
Nothing like that. 3 years old. Let me see.
Yeah,
You
3
could have
years
gotten
old.
some stock or something, right? I mean, come on.
I didn't see anything like that on the inventory.
Okay, when's the exhibit open?
The exhibit opens. The exhibit is called Keeping the Promise, and it's all about the liberation of the Philippines, 1944-45, which we're in the 70th anniversary of. It opens February 21st. The opening ceremony is 1:30, and the exhibit itself is going to be open for 2 years. It's going to be open until 2017.
All right.
So it's a great story that we talk about echoing today. The United States and the Philippines still ties these two countries together, and it's an amazing story on a human level, and it's an amazing story binding our two countries.
Well, I'm going to show my kids what Arthur got for Christmas. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for joining us.